Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and INICIVOX. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who's passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know this is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Ledora Brown, who is a former and forever pitch star, but Ledora didn't start out at Pitch Publicity as an intern. So this interview is going to be a little bit different today. And it's really going to shed some light on more of the history of Pitch Publicity because she's been by my side, I feel like, since pretty much the beginning. I hired Ledora in 2008 at Pitch Publicity. This was Ledora's first professional PR job out of college. She graduated from Howard University with a degree in journalism and public relations. And then she worked for me when I actually had an office, a water cooler, a parking lot. People were coming in and out. It was like the whole shebang, I said, of what an entrepreneur traditionally envisions as a business. So she saw that side of pitch. Very few people have. Unfortunately, I had to let Ledora go after only a year working for me, which I hated doing. But we were struggling through the Great Recession, which was a major financial crisis at that time. And I ended up eventually having to let everyone go, which was a horrible experience for me. However, Ledora was the last one I let go because she was just that good. And I had such a hard time parting with her. And but from there, she was able to get more experience. So she worked at advertising and marketing firm for about 4 years while I was reconstructing pitch and making pitch 100% remote. I didn't want to go back to that office because that was such a horrible experience for me to have to let everyone go. But I was also having a hard time getting people to come work for me because back in 2010, working remote was not cool, not like it is today. And so that's when I started our internship mentorship program here at Pitch Publicity and recruited college students to come work for me because they were fine. They were stuck at school. They were happy to work remote. And then just out of pure serendipity, Ledora and my path crossed again. We were both working on separate but related clients. This was back in 2014. I was working with Fabian Cousteau and promoting his Mission 31, and Ledora, her agency, was working with Blue Ocean Film Festival that was previewing his documentary film. And so we got to work together on an event. I remember that. You remember that, Ledora? We were on a rooftop in St. Pete.
I do.
It was amazing. And I took her to dinner and I said, hey, would you ever consider coming back to pitch? But there would be no office, but you would be doing the same thing. And I was so lucky that she came back and I got to work with her for 6 more years until the end of 2020 when she was recruited and swept away because we were doing a big project called Elephant in the Room series, which we'll get into later. And she helped me with that with our virtual platform INICIVOX, and everyone was seeing her great work. And I couldn't keep her anymore. She had to go. But welcome, Ledora.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Amy. Thank you for that warm welcome.
I know it was long, but we worked together a long time. So you deserved it. And we have a lot of history together. And really, I think you were there by my side during the toughest MSH years of Pitch Publicity. We call make shit happen. Ledora knows the real meaning behind that. I remember one time when you finally realized I kept using MSH and MSH, and you're like, I get paychecks from MSH and I never knew what that was all about.
That's hilarious. You're right. I did not know what that was the longest. And when you told me, I'm like, that tracks. That makes sense. Because that's what we do.
We are the Make Shit Happen global company. That's the behind the scenes name. But yeah, I think it's pretty funny that you were accepting paychecks from me from a company that you had no idea what it was.
Hey, as long as that check clears, we're good.
All right. Well, you, in my view, is definitely someone who make success happen. You've made success happen with me many, many times. So I'm excited to get into it. I want to start at the very beginning of when we met, because you were interviewing me in an office, traditional office setting. And I remember you offered up some personal information about yourself. Now you're very young at this stage. You probably broke all the HR rules of what HR people say not to do. And I remember my question was pretty vague. I think it was like, is there anything that's keeping you from giving me 100%? And you just like confessed. It was like a confessional. You just told me right then and there that you had an infant and that you were engaged and you were going to get married and like all these things that normally they advise don't tell anybody in an interview because it could, hurt your chances. But for some reason, I was really impressed that you were juggling all these things. So you got the interview, but I want to know, in that moment, what prompted you to be so transparent? Why did you do that?
Well, as you said, I was very young, right? It was my first PR job out of college. So I was extremely excited. I had been looking for probably a year by that point. So when I got the interview with Pitch and I met you in person, I was so impressed by the office. I loved it. I was just excited to be there. I was excited someone wanted to talk to me and saw value in me. So in our conversations, I literally just opened up to you. Like I didn't know, you're right. I didn't know the HR rules. I didn't know what was taboo to talk about or to discuss, especially in a job setting or a job interview. But you made me feel extremely comfortable and confident to be myself. And I don't like going into situations where everything's not on the table. That's my perspective. Because I don't want there to be mixed communications or mixed signals. I told you up front I couldn't do it, and this is why. But that's why I kind of was like, baby, I'm getting married. But really, in essence, it wasn't never going to stop me from doing my job because I'm a person who likes to what? Make shit happen. So I felt comfortable and confident talking to you about it. And I'm glad that you saw the value in me and pushed forward with me anyway.
Yeah, I really saw that in you. And it's a little scary because someone so young at that age when you first were hired by me, you're pretty young. And I remember the thought going through my head. I'm like, she so confidently just told me she had a baby and that she's planning a wedding. I'm like, I don't know, that many people would do that. So I was kind of impressed with that. And I'm glad that I did hire you. Now, then back in 2014, you came back in a remote position. Now, at this point, you had 3 children at that time. How did you feel about the idea of working remotely? Because it's not something that a lot of people are doing at that time. Did it align with your personal schedule, or did it present more challenges compared to working in an office?
No, it absolutely aligned with my personal schedule. That's why I thought it was kismet. Like I had literally just had my 3rd baby, similar to I had just had my first baby when I first met you. And we were at that point, I was working in St. Pete, living in, a different county, Hillsborough County. So it was a bit of a commute and, paying for daycare. My kids were in school age, but I still had after school care for them. So it made sense at that time frame for me to stay home with my youngest child and just get my kids after school. It just made sense for me as a young mother to be able to juggle those things. And I was used to be able to juggling an outside of the house career already. To me, it was going to make it just that much more easier and simpler to bring it in-house.
And you mentioned being a young mother. You were such a young mother, and there's so many women, especially in today's age, that they just put off having children until they kind of get their career started. Like that's kind of the plan, and then they try to have children later, and then they find out, well, that's not such an easy task. And looking back now, you've had this perspective, right? Like you had your children. Maybe you didn't plan it that way in the beginning, but that's how it happened. Now I remember that infant you were talking about in my office, Jordan, he's going into his senior year in high school next year, right?
Yes.
That's amazing.
That's right.
I mean, looking back on it now, and I'm sure you had friends that did it in a different sequence. Maybe they got into their career first and maybe they're just having babies now. Would you have done anything differently? Are you glad that you did it in the order that you did?
Well, I could never, not have wanted my children when I had them. That was God's plan, and I went with it. But that being said, I think my preference would have been to start my career. When I came out of college, I kind of envisioned, really before college, I envisioned like this high-powered corporate communications career in New York City. That was my goal. That's how I envisioned my life. And so after school in DC, I ended up moving to Florida. and it's a much slower pace. There's no really metropolitan city area outside of Miami. And even that is just more like tropical and vacation vibes. So it didn't give me the same feeling as New York or even DC would. So making that adjustment mentally in my career and then having children on top of that, it was a challenge. Um, but I don't regret having my children young because I'm not even 40 yet,
You're
and I
done.
still have I'm,
You're almost done.
I'm almost done. So I don't regret that. And yes, I have friends who have had children later in their careers, but I don't think anyone really regrets their choices. They just do the best of what they can at the time.
How has your experience as a mother influenced your professional growth? Because you did have children young, so maybe it made you have to grow up faster, or was there anything about motherhood that helped you in your professional career?
I think it helped me stay organized. I don't think I would have been so diligent about um, getting things done in an organized fashion, knowing I have to be doing XYZ later on. So it really kind of made me detail what my daily, weekly, monthly schedule looks like, because I'm trying to juggle so many things and I don't want any of these balls to drop, right? So I think again, having children young while married and trying to balance all these things in a new environment. I'm not from Florida. I'm not from where I currently live, although at this point I'm a Floridian. But I was juggling a lot of new things at once. And my personality aligns itself with organization. And so motherhood just added to that.
You had to be organized.
Hmm.
And I remember during the time that you were working with me, I think we used almost every one of your family members in some TV segment or something.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the segment that Jordan was in?
I do. I was just thinking about that. Because I still have those pictures on my phone. Cloud never goes away. He was doing a health segment, but he was in studio with his friend doing some soccer skills. It was very cute, and he was super excited to be there, participating in what mommy does at work. Bring your kid to work day.
I know you took them in studio with you. I think they were demonstrating, I don't know, playing outside or something. I just remember the producer was like, well, if this is a kids segment, we really need kids. And we're like, wait a minute, we have kids. Ledora has kids.
We'll make it happen.
And then I think we even got your mom on a segment too. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was some type of cooking segment with one of our experts at the time. So it's a family affair to be a successful team. So they were happy to do it for me, and I was happy to contribute that to Pitch.
True MSH. You got to pull in all the friends and family members.
For sure. And it's a great segment.
They were great segments. And you mentioned Jordan's going to be on TV again. What's his TV segment? Did you pitch it?
I did not pitch it, but it's for an organization that I am in called Jack and Jill of America. And one of the mother members is an anchor on ABC. So I think she pitched it to one of her team members because she didn't actually do the story. It was someone else from ABC. Um, and so they interviewed him as part of this cotillion event he just did. And what the cotillion experience is for young people, juniors and seniors in high school. And they interviewed him during a couple of practices, and then they came to the big gala event, a few weeks later. So he's very excited.
I'm so glad that Pitch Publicity gave him his start in TV.
Yes.
Now
he'll have his own sizzle reel. He's going to have his own sizzle reel.
Oh, yeah? What does Jordan know what he wants to do?
Yeah, he wants to do mechanical engineering.
Oh, okay.
So nothing with comms, but he likes the spotlight. He is a great personality.
I think we're going to see him one day in the spotlight. I don't know where, but
maybe politics, baby. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Having them witness your career, what traits or lessons have you passed on to them that you're now seeing, as a working mom? What are you seeing in them now that they're getting older that is a reflection of you being a working mom as a positive?
Yeah, they understand that it's a very delicate balance of time and effort, right? If you really want to accomplish something, the effort has to be there, especially if it's a shortened amount of time. So that means there's some things you can't do, right? There's some things you really want to do. You want to go out with your friends, you want to, go hang out at the beach or whatever, but you have things to get done now because our timeline is coming up. So it's a matter of organizing and planning ahead so that you're not rushed at the end, and then you can still enjoy the fun things that you want to do with your friends, right? So it's keeping an eye on the bigger picture. It's understanding that with any success comes work and effort. Nothing is given, nothing is easy, right? And so I try to instill those lessons in my children on a daily basis. I talk them through um, actual decision making um, situations that I may have to make that, so they can understand what it means to be an adult. Like, like that's why it's so important to teach like these finance classes in high school so they understand money and credit and all these things, because if you just throw your children out in the world without any educational experience, any practical experience, then they're going to land on their heads. So I'm trying to teach them as early as possible to their ability, to the sense that it makes sense for them, that, what it takes to be a successful adult takes, this kind of a lot of the skills you're learning in school, they do apply. Maybe you're not doing the Pythagorean theorem every day, but right, you are learning these tasks that involve research and brain skills, brain thinking skills. So for sure.
And they've had you as a great model, so that's great.
Thanks.
Since you have been a mom, a full-time mom, non-paid, and a whole nother job during your whole PR career job, I'm curious. I mean, I'm sure that you've learned a lot and you've thought, gosh, if I was running a business, I would do things differently. I was just wondering if you had any insights to any business owners that may be watching this. Is there anything that they should know about hiring and managing mothers that may not be commonly known? How can employers more effectively motivate and support team members who are balancing work and motherhood at the same time?
I think it's important that business owners, particularly men, and sometimes women, with or without children, need to understand that, especially in today's economy, it's going to take two parents in a household to make it a success. If so, don't shy away from hiring mothers to that effect, right? The household needs the income for the mother as well to be successful. So make sure that you consider mothers as part of your, employee headcount, because mothers are, if anything, they're probably the best balancers in the world. They understand what it takes to get their kids to school on time, after school activities, friend play groups. Like it goes on and making dinner every night. Like I have to decide what to cook every night. I promise you, that's like the worst part of motherhood. I promise you.
I know, time management.
Time management, correct. All those are transferable skills into the work environment. So, definitely, I would say being a mother is something to be commended, not something to be like dismissed in any way. Just ask them if you have questions about it, ask them prior to hiring them, and even after hiring them, if there's an issue of some sort, ask them how they plan to work in, you know, motherhood or responsibilities of home with what they have to do at work. But also ask that to fathers. It's not just a mother who runs the ship at home. Fathers should have the same amount of work to do at home. So don't make that expectation more for the mother versus a father. So consider those things.
You've done a lot of interviews with companies. Do you ever think to yourself, gosh, I wish they would ask me about this? Or do you ever feel like they're being hesitant about not asking you about something that you wish that you could showcase? Like give us some good interview questions that, if somebody is interviewing someone who's a mother, what should they be asking them?
Hmm. Tell us what your daily routine looks like.
Hmm.
Tell us what are some transferable skills, especially if you haven't been in a workplace for a while and you've been working at home. What are some skills that are transferable to what your current this job description entails? What have you learned from the outside looking in, of what new or fresh ideas can you bring to the table that we may not have thought of? So I think it's important to gain some perspective from others, especially those who may not have been in the workforce for a while, or those who have been transferring industries or may have some like holes in their resume. Um, ask them about it. Don't be afraid of it because there's probably a very logical reason for it. It shouldn't be something that is, again, dismissed because it's not following some formulaic structure that's probably outdated anyway. Our culture society is very flexible. So I think employers need to be flexible when hiring the type of employees that they think that will grow their business, right? It's everything is so old school, and I think employers need to kind of have a mindset of utilizing um mothers in a different way.
I like that too. And I mean, some of the things that you just mentioned, I think those are great things for mothers to bring up if they're in an interview too. Just bring it up if you're not asked, right? They might be
Right.
afraid to ask it, but say what your transferable skills are because you have to be quite the manager as a mother. I mean, I think people don't really think about that, but you are managing so many things. So there's so many management skills that I think mothers just inherently have
Hmm.
because they're not only just running kids, they're oftentimes running in-laws and organizing family meetings and schedules and dinners. And I mean, it's everything.
And budgets. I mean, running a household takes money. So you have to be able to budget, and there's a lot of skills that involve it. So I would encourage mothers in particular, fathers, anyone really, um, to write down what those skill sets at home are and kind of make and bring them to the interview as in a business sense. Like this works in this environment. This works in that environment. So that it's more clear to the hiring manager.
Yeah, I think those are great tips. I want to discuss your experience in pitching because it's been just foundational in your career, started at Pitch. But I wanted to know, do you enjoy pitching or do you view it as kind of a necessary part of a job that you just have to do with PR?
First of all, I love pitching. Um, I absolutely love pitching because I'm a communications person. Like I like writing is my strong suit, and I love talking to people and having conversations. And those are what you do in pitching. So as of course being resourceful as well. Um, but
Another transferable skill of motherhood, being resourceful.
um, but I kind of wanted to move my career in a different direction, in more of a corporate comms environment where I'm not only pitching, but there's more like executive communications and employee communications that would be more. So I just want to expand my skill set a bit. Um, but my first love has always been pitching. I have great media relationships with because of you. The skills I've learned with you across different markets across the country at a national level, that have really paid off in my career. So I would say I love pitching 80% of the time. That's if I was going to give a percentage, it would be about 80% of the time. Yeah, for sure.
And, you mentioned these other things within the career of public relations, like we have internal communications, we have events, we have all kinds of different things that we do in public relations and pitching usually is referred to, pitching journalists. What are some of the skills from pitching that you've used in these other areas that have been helpful? Like, what have you learned from pitching that's helped you in some other areas of work that you've done?
I would say, especially with events, timelines and time frames, like when I'm pitching, I'm trying to provide a date and expectation of when this interview would take place. And so that's kind of the same time frame you have to do with, or same mindset, I'm sorry, you would take when planning an event. Like things have to be done at a certain amount of time. And so you're planning weeks in ahead. There's step-by-step processes to ensure that you get to the next part of that step, right, in order to complete the whole task as a whole, which is essentially the event. So definitely time management, being resourceful. Like if a ice sculptor, for example, wasn't unable to finish this project we had tasked him to do, or something, one of his machines broke, how soon could I get a new one? And or like it's so it's not crisis management, right? But it is like project management. It's a project management. It's a lot of skills that I think expert pitchers or expert media relations people can easily get into event management and event planning because really it's all about finding out who could do what when. That's what I want to know.
Now, I'm glad that you brought up the ice sculptor because you actually did hire an ice sculptor for one of our events.
I
I
know.
want to talk about this because when you were working at Pitch Publicity, the first event I had I asked you to work with me on was in 2018. It was our 15th anniversary. You put on an Alice in Wonderland themed event in California. We flew out to do that at a conference. Then the next year, I let you come up with the whole theme on your own, and you came up with this awesome Game of Thrones theme. That's where the ice sculptor came in. That was 2019 at a CEO conference. And I remember thinking, oh, now I'm going to have to watch Game of Thrones because I have no idea what Ledora's putting together for my event. So, which is a good show, by the way. And then in 2020, I actually asked you to partner with me, like as equals, not working for me, but partner with me and doing our first virtual seminar series called Identifying the Elephant in the Room, Critical Communication Strategies in the Face of Racism, which I'm going to say it right here. Ledora gets credit for helping me come up with that name. We went back and forth many times and consulted with her mother and other people, and we landed on that name. That was an amazing virtual seminar series. We did that in 2020 when everyone was locked down and they couldn't go anywhere anyway. I think we learned a lot from that, and we won an award from PR News for that one. But I'm just curious, out of all the events that you did, and I really discovered that you love doing events. That's why I just kept giving you more to do. Which one was your favorite experience? And at that point, what additional skills were you picking up?
I think it was the Alice in Wonderland one, but honestly, it was because it was my first time in California. Like, I think just going to a whole different state was like top tier. Like, I made it status for an event. That was my favorite one.
I think the Alice in Wonderland was when I had you like direct and run and produce. And we had done some events in New York before, but this is the first one I was like, okay, you're in charge.
Yes. Okay. I'm probably intermingling it because you have a party every year, but this was the first one. You had me kind of run and produce, as you said. But yeah, my favorite one because it was in California. And I was, like I said, I was kind of doing pitching all the time. I wanted to do something different. So you gave me the reins, and I appreciated that so much. It was exciting and fun to do along with the pitching I was doing daily, as part of my responsibilities. So things I've learned that are kind of transferable were, again, those event management skills I hadn't done. Even know if I did an event before, was years and years prior to that. So it's kind of like relearning in a sense. Because
you know what I noticed about you
different.
though? What I noticed about you in that Alice in Wonderland event, because I like doing events, but I don't know, you've done enough events with me now. You know how I can get. Like, I will start pulling my hair out and yelling at people if things aren't happening at the right time. And you were just so naturally calm and cool. I remember that about you. And which is a great person for me to work with, because you don't want to put two people like me together. It'll be like a mess. But you were just so cool. Even when things got a little tense or things weren't going right, you were able to manage and handle people. Did that just come naturally for you, or did you pick that up from something else? Like,
No, I think
children.
Well, that's a great point. I think it came natural because I know, Amy, I've known you for so long. I also know how you respond to stress and anything like that. So you're right. I wasn't going to mirror any energy that I didn't think was going to be productive to us doing a great job and having a great experience for our guests. And I knew part of my job was keeping you calm. So I just kind of like, if you had any questions that I could answer immediately, I did. And if I didn't know the answer, I would go find out just to make you feel better. Because that will make my job easier, right? if my boss is good, I'm good. So I think you're right. I mean, it's just sort of, you have to kind of manage a lot of expectations, people management. And that's a skill I hadn't really learned because I wasn't doing a lot of client facing work at the time with you. It was really just you and then the media. But nothing like a client. It's when you have to kind of, I can't think of the word, but like massage the client and make sure that they're good. That was something I hadn't had to do in a very, very, very long time. So I took that project head on. I enjoyed it so much. But you're right. I do remember kind of like, it is a lot going on here. Amy is kind of over here with it. But let me answer this question so that she's good and then she can talk to clients and then we'll all be good and happy together. So
what are some other, like if you had to give someone tips on running an event, what would you say would be like the top things to keep in mind when you're running an event to keep things running smoothly on time and make a client happy?
Yes. Well, since then, I've done trade show events with other employers as well, which is kind of a different setup altogether. But I'm trying to combine all of my event experience. Top tips would include definitely if you have someone available who has been at especially the trade show event before, asking them about their experience and what they've learned so you know what to expect versus coming into a cold event and just planning everything from the start. That's a different experience altogether. So leaning on people with experience, number one. Two would be kind of having a vision for what you want the experience to be for your guests, your clients, the media. That's having a vision and a theme to kind of uh, balance everything on. Um, Having things kind of detailed with a schedule, how I run a show, if you will. How are things going to operate at this time of day? What needs to happen at this time? And then making sure you have enough food and drinks, catering services, because no one wants to be in an event hungry or thirsty. So that is super important as well. Um, and then of course, any type of entertainment, just making sure you envision a full experience for whoever your audience is. So getting those details down, creating kind of a great timeline for yourself, including like when you're getting out invitations, so you have the right people there. Following up, making sure you have all the details in hand. And then of course, if you can balance that with someone who you're working with, they may miss something that you may miss something and they catch it. So having someone to support you as well is also another thing I would recommend.
Yeah, those are all great. You're so good at events. I love doing the events with you. We've had such a long history as mentor, mentee. What's been the most powerful to you about our relationship?
The longevity and the consistency. Like, I still talk about you to anyone who will listen, mind you. I'm like, Amy Summers this, Amy Summers that. I kid you not. I kid you not. Um, I mean, I feel like I've grown up with you. You've been instrumental in my career in so many ways. So I've loved seeing, your company blossom and become what it is today. You run it like a tight ship. You've always run it like a tight ship. Like I was impressed from you from day one. You told me do this, do that, do that, and it was so easy that I didn't have to think about how. I just followed directions, and from there, I was able to gain what I think might be best to get this. But I had you to follow in your footsteps first. So having a mentor who is able to kind of illustrate and demonstrate what it means to be successful, giving you the steps and tools to do that, everyone's not willing to do that. That is rare. And then to have you in my corner for so long, on top of that, even if I'm working with you or not, you know, again, that's rare. People do not have that. That's why I value our friendship. So
Well, you say that you feel like you grew up with me, but I feel like I grew up with you too, because I started Pitch when I was 26. So I was actually pretty young when I hired you. I think I was just probably like early 30s when I hired you. When I started Pitch Publicity, mentorship wasn't initially like a focal point. I was just trying to run a company, but you've been by my side from the start, and it just happened, I think, naturally for us that, I didn't say, okay, I'm going to mentor you and this is what we're going to do. I do that to students now, but I didn't do that with you. It just happened. What characteristics do you think make a boss a good mentor? And for someone just starting out in their career, like what traits should they be seeking in a boss or a company when they're interviewing? Like what should they be looking for that you would say, okay, that's a sign that they're going to like really support me?
I think great traits for a mentor is someone who is patient and willing to give of their time. If you can say you're a mentor, but if you're not making time for me, then what are you actually mentoring? Like, so if you're willing to share your resources and your time with someone, that will make someone a great mentor. And that's someone I would look for as a mentee. As well as someone who's also willing to share their connections. Gatekeeping is a real thing. And I understand it takes time to build certain types of relationships and you kind of want to hold on to that. But at some point, I think it's important to validate your mentee that you feel they're valuable enough that they should have access to this special thing. And if you find someone who's willing to do that for you, you will go far, because you can learn from their mistakes. You can learn kind of the right approaches for different business or personal situations. And then for those who are interviewing at specific companies, I would look for, hiring managers who are open and communicative about their expectations, who demonstrate the ability to be like empathetic and show support for you. I mean, you may not learn all this in the interview process, right? But at some point, you would know who this person will show you who they are. So those are the type of traits that you want to work for. You want to be able to be in a company that's going to support your growth and not stop you or hinder you in any way. They're going to show you support outside of the work environment as well. So that's what I would go for.
And they let you go, just like I let you go, Ledora.
Fly in the wind.
In support. Well, what's the best way for our Pitch Live community to connect with you? If they want to connect with you, maybe they want you to be their mentor.
Love to be someone's mentor. I promise you, reach out to me. My Instagram is love, L-U-V, Ledora, Ledora. You can email me, ledora.anderson@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. It's Ledora Brown or Ledora Anderson Brown. I'm not really sure. I don't go on Facebook that much, so I wouldn't pick up Facebook. Just message me on or DM me on Instagram.
LinkedIn. She's on LinkedIn, everybody.
Oh, LinkedIn, the number one business website in the world. How can I forget that? It's Ledora Brown.
But if you want to see the kids and the mom, then you have to go to Facebook.
Yeah, that's what I post family stuff on Facebook, personal stuff on IG, business life on LinkedIn. Ledora Brown.
Well, Ledora, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have definitely inspired a lot of people in your career journey. You've inspired me, and you continue to do so. I want to encourage everyone to share this episode because Ledora has a lot to offer, and I also want you to connect with her on LinkedIn. I think she would be a wonderful mentor for you. And you know how much I love you, Ledora. So thank you again for coming on Pitch Live and documenting this important part of our history together at Pitch Publicity.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me, Amy.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there, pitch, to advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid in those interviews that you're in, like Ledora says, offer up that information about yourself and get out there. As a bonus, join us at INICIVOX.com where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link's going to be in the show notes along with all my social media handles and Ledora's. And stay connected like Ledora and I do. And follow each other in support. Until next time, MSH, Ledora, make shit happen.
Make it happen.
Bye.